Good afternoon, folks. How's everyone?
Good.
We're good? We've had a moment to settle, take a breath. It's an exciting week so far, isn't it? It's a lot of fun. Chicago native, my name is Brenna Cronin. I'm the general manager of One License. So it only took a short little 5-hour rain the whole time drive to get here yesterday. So who's coming the farthest? Anyone from Hawaii or Alaska or anything like that? Are you really? California? Very good. Big California contingent here. Where are you from?
Washington.
Washington. Wonderful. Very good. How many of you have heard of One License? Or oh my gosh, you've done half of my job for me. Or OneLicense.net as it was previously called before our big exciting merger and all those fun things that happened January 1st. It was a very busy Christmas break, and then a very busy spring, and a very busy summer, and it has not slowed down since. How many of you currently have a license with us? How many of you are pros and experts and know exactly how to use it?
That's why we're here.
We got a half thumb there, all right. Very good. Well, what I'm going to basically do is give a basic understanding of what One License is. I'll give you a little bit of a tutorial overview. We're going to be referencing our brochure a lot. I'm an internet-based company, and this isn't happening for me right now. So if that comes in, we're going to make it happen. But until then, I'm going to speak very descriptively so you can imagine all of these things. And also, most of you have raised your hand about the license, so you've actually seen what the website looks like. How many of you have had a One License in the past, but it's lapsed, or you haven't used it, you're interested in bringing it on again, kind of a thing? Okay, so are the vast majority of you here from like a tutorial-y kind of standpoint? Wonderful, all right.
Tell me how to use it.
Tell me how to use it. Well, you are in a good company. I'm a teacher first. That's how I look through my lens of life. So if you have seen my blog, if you've seen the tutorial videos, things like that. Maybe some of you have called and said, how do I do this? And we say, there's a tutorial video. And you say, that wasn't good enough, right? So that's why we're here at NPM. So we are primarily a reporting service, and we are secondarily a downloading service. And that's written out I'll hold this up for you here. It's written here, but it might not be as overwhelmingly obvious as it should be. So what I will say again is that we are primarily a reporting service, and we are secondarily a downloading service. So we represent about 160 different member publishers and their divisions. So their divisions, if you take a look on the inside of your brochure, for example, we're under the umbrella of GIA and OCP, as you are all aware. So under GIA is going to be folks like Tizay and Wolf and the Damians and things like that. Under OCP is going to be Spirit and Song. So 160 different member publishers and their divisions is who we represent. So essentially, if a publisher is a member publisher with us, then their music for congregational use is going to be covered. All right? We won't jump ahead to manual submissions. We'll talk about that in just a second. So the vast majority of the publishers that are on here, and especially the ones that are at NPM this year, have a very good presence on the website. There's lots of downloads available. A lot of their texts are available for you to be able to search and report. But every once in a while, you're not going to be able to find something, no matter how hard you try. And that's why a manual submission is going to be really helpful. All right? So coming back to the member publishers for just a second, each of them have their own capacities and capabilities, right? Some of them are here at NPM and they have very big booths. They have dedicated permissions people that handle the work and the relationship with us, and some of them don't. Some of them are independent publishers or independent copyright holders, and they just don't have the means to be able to have a robust presence on the website, okay? So that's why you'll find there's kind of like a couple of different levels of our member publisher presence. So a member publisher can be with us and have all of their titles submitted manually, so they're not going to actively manage things. They can be with us and have their titles up on the website for you to report. Or they can be with us, have their titles up on the website, and also have downloads. So folks like GIA, OCP, World Library, they're going to have very robust presences on the website, right? So as a general rule, if you aren't able to find something, a manual submission is how you're going to want to go ahead and process that, all right? After you search for a title, and I wish I could show you, after you search for a title and you aren't able to find it in a reasonable amount of time, please don't bend over backwards, right? Scroll down to the bottom and you'll see a blue box that says enter a manual submission. So for example, if there's something that you just heard at Jeannie Cotter's concert last night, it was a beautiful event, right? There was something that you just heard that GIA just published, it's entirely possible that it's not going to be available on our website just yet, all right? To give you an idea of how long the process of things take, Ritual Song 2 in itself came out at the beginning of Advent. The Pew edition is just now, as of last week, available on our website. It takes a significant amount of hands, it takes a significant amount of IT work to be able to have an entire hymnal available. It's quite a process. And so it's kind of the same thing here. A title can be up on the website, a title can have a download to it, and a title can be linked to a hymnal. It's a three-step process that the publishers are actively involved in. So you can search, I'm throwing out a number here, Gather 702, right? And it might be We Are Called, and it might very well be covered as we all know that it is, right? But searching Gather 702 or Ritual Song 2, it might not, if it's a brand new hymnal, be able to generate that way. So searching by title is going to be the best way to do that. Searching by title and composer is the fastest and easiest way to find your titles. All right? Just to give you an idea of how that website works. Go ahead. I'm going to let you kind of get in here and make it happen. So coming back to our brochure here, you can see the pricing that's on the left-hand side. You will see an increase after January 1st. So the merger that took place on January 1st brought together Licensing Online, so OCP's program, with OneLicense.net, which was GIA's program, right? They came together to create one license. Thank you. So between all of the different publishers that were involved, we've added more. March 1st, we launched World Library. April 1st, we became active in Australia and New Zealand. And since then, we now have worldwide access. So folks anywhere can buy a license. It's been an uphill climb for the last 6 months. It's been quite a busy couple of months. So the things that you get with one license are convenience. You're able to go to this one website to access the member publishers that you're looking for, the downloads for your congregational reprints. You're able to access thousands of more titles because all of these publishers are together under this one license. We break them down into 3 different reprint license structures. Thank you. Annual, event, and single use. So the vast majority of you said that you had annual licenses. That gives you the ability to use the license year-round, right? Whether that's one event or all 52 weeks of the year, and funerals, and weddings, right? It can all be different things depending on what your own specific congregation needs. We also have podcast streaming licenses and practice track licenses as well, which we'll talk about in just a second. And then we have a brand new tablet-friendly website. So a lot of the changes that happened on January 1st were mostly technology. So some of you are coming here and saying, this website looks completely different. How do I use this? What's happening, right? So we did a couple of webinars. We have some tutorial videos, but I will give you an overview now as well. The downloads themselves, like I mentioned, are up to the discretion of the member publisher. So if the member publisher has their own service, for example, Augsburg has Sundays and Seasons, right? The Episcopal Church has Right Song. So each organization might have their own downloadable service. You use us to report the titles, and you use them to actually download the music. Folks like GIA, OCP, World Library, their titles are going to be here. So does that distinction make sense? Okay, of what's available and what isn't. I had a question from a person earlier who couldn't stick around. You are 100% allowed to type out text lyrics yourself and use them in your worship aid. You're also 100% allowed to engrave songs yourself in a program like Finale, if that's something that's accessible to you and that your parish has. So between those 2 ways, if you wanted to make everything the same font in your worship aid, 100%, absolutely, you can do that. Those text files, you can certainly save them on your own desktop. We're trying to make a way for text files to kind of be shared. That's kind of like One License 4.0, in my head of like my dreams of what I want this thing to be. So hopefully something like that can come in the future, where text files can actually be shared with people. All right? So again, that pricing structure is there. Let's talk about podcast and practice track licenses for just a second.
Question.
Yes?
What was the second thing you said we're 100% allowed to do? I didn't.
Engraving.
Yeah, so you can engrave the music yourself into a program like Finale, so putting notes on your staff, right?
Okay.
If you wanted to make that your own specific font. I know for some people they don't mind, right? But sometimes if you're creating a wedding bulletin or something like that, you want all the fonts to be the same, even though they're from different publishers. Totally understand. You're allowed to do that with this license. And some of you might be doing it already and didn't even know that you're allowed to do that. So.
The NPM, for instance, in the program, all their fonts match. That's one of the, so it looks uniform.
Yeah, absolutely. So to have a practice track streaming license, you must have an annual license. They go hand in hand. So podcast streaming gives you the ability to put things up on your website, to put things up on social media, to share things via an email, newsletter, blog, if that's part of the direction that your parish is heading. What I will tell you is the vast majority of folks that are putting things up on YouTube, etc., do not have the permissions to do so. One license would say, and this is, I'm not wearing my police hat right now, I'm just informing, I'm a teacher first. One license would say that you need a license to do that, all right? So if you're just gonna put the sermon up, you don't need our permission. That is the intelligent copyright of your pastor, right? Or whoever the person is that's giving that reflection or that sermon. But if you're going to be putting music up on your website, the podcast streaming license allows you to do that. So podcast meaning it happened in the past and it's archived, like we listen to like This American Life, right? Ira Glass is not sitting there talking to you on Monday morning, right? He's already recorded that ahead of time. Streaming means it is happening in the moment, it's live. So you can do a Facebook Live. You can put it up on your website as a live event if you have the technology to do so. So podcast streaming license is in addition to the annual license, and it gives you up to 3 times as many views as the top part of your attendance category. So if you folks are hanging out in category F, 700 to 1,100 people, you're going to be allowed to have, on average, up to 3,000 views per video. And that might be enough for you. That might be entirely fine. But if you're a satellite church, or some churches in Chicago, you have folks traveling on the weekend, so a lot of people watch online after the fact. I can think of Old St. Pat's in downtown Chicago, right? So they have a bigger license so it can accommodate all of those people. This is a big thing in non-denominational churches. So if they have several satellite campuses, right, it gives them the ability to be covered for all of those things. All right? Any questions on the podcast and streaming license? Yes?
So you're distinguishing between a podcast license and like a mechanical license that you would need to make a CD?
Absolutely. So, and mechanical tends to be a tricky word because the mechanical license is technically through the publisher, but we will talk about practice tracks in just a second.
So, all right.
Yes?
So I'm not sure I understand. So let's say we were on E, 400 to 700 people, and we went to the podcast. You're saying we have to bump up to a higher number?
No, so with that category, your attendance, your physical
It's still
in
400
shares
to
attendance,
700.
absolutely.
Even though there's like 2,000 people seeing it on the web.
You're allowed to have up to 2,100 for your specific category. So
Oh, okay.
take the biggest number in your category, multiply it by 3.
Oh,
And if it's 2,101 one weekend, we're not going to be upset about that, right? But if you're starting to push into that other category, we would increase that. And you can update your category at any time. You can give us a call, shoot us an email, and you can also do it during your invoice renewal period as well, which is about 45 days in advance of your annual license expiration date. Okay?
So you're talking about like if someone videotapes our choir singing a song,
Yes.
covered under one license,
Yes.
and it's posted on the website.
Yes.
That's perfectly fine.
As long as you have this license. Yes.
You have to
So
have
the
the
keyword
podcast.
there,
you have to have the podcast.
as long as you have the podcast streaming license. Yeah. And the keyword there, I see you, the keyword there is choir, right? So we do not offer copyright reprints of choral or instrumental or accompanist music, right? That's not something that's going to be covered under our license. The publisher wants you to work with them on that. But where the choir does come into play is the podcast streaming and the practice track license. So if your choir is singing an anthem and you're putting it up on your website, the composer absolutely, as long as it's not in the public domain, right, deserves a royalty for that. So that's where you would report your choral anthem through our website. You would not report your choral anthem through our website to copy it for your choir. Does that distinction make sense? Great. Yes?
Can you just repeat their questions so that we know what you're answering?
I will. Thank you for that suggestion. I appreciate that. So that one specifically was if I have a choral anthem that I want to put on the website. Thank you for making that suggestion. So the practice track license we can talk about now too. Practice track license is where you're putting on your director of music hat, right? And you're working with your cantors or your choirs or even a bride and groom or a couple that's coming and seeking marriage, right? So the practice track license gives you the ability to work with your people. It's in the same category as your congregational attendance. So this example that we had down front, it was letter E, so 400 to 700. So a practice track license for that would be $170. You wouldn't have an annual license in category E and then a practice track license in category A, right? Because I can assure you that no one has a choir that's 20,000 plus, right? So the and God bless you if you do. It sounds like an 80-hour-a-week job. So the practice track license is going to be based on the average weekly attendance of the congregation. And the reason why we do this is we want everything to be equal, and we don't want the little guy to pay as much as the big guy, right? And we trust that your numbers are going to be wherever your numbers are, okay? So the practice track license allows you to make two different styles of recordings. A commercial recording, so you just went downstairs to WLP's booth and you bought a CD of songs that you had heard this week, right? And you want to burn copies of CDs for your cantor to learn that song. Absolutely. The number of CDs that you burn is what you should report on our website. So you make a commercial copy, you download it from Amazon, iTunes, whatever. Wearing my publisher hat for a second, they would tell you to buy it directly from the publisher because the composer gets more money, and not from iTunes or Amazon. And that's just a justice thing that I feel like is on my heart to mention. But wherever you get your music from, you're allowed to make commercial copies of it. And then if you want to make your own copy, you can as well. So if your tenors are having a really hard time with one specific part of a piece, you can sit there on the piano, you can knock it out for them, you can record it, and then you can hand the tenors a copy of that piece of music, okay? So the practice track license allows you to make practicing tracks, right? You can also put them up on your website if you have a password secured section of the website. So I'll give you an example for folks that are looking to get married. If a couple comes to you and says, we have no idea what kind of music that we want to pick, but we want you to help us figure it out. Some of you are going to have the time to play everything out for them, and some of you are not, right? So some of you may hand out a CD. So every time you hand out that CD, I would go to that list on the website and I would report that you've submitted that list. We save things as lists so that way they're easy to find. So that way you don't have to type in the songs every time that you're looking for them, right? I can show you that too if we have some time. So every time you hand out that CD, go ahead and report that you've used that CD, okay? If you put things up on a website and it's password protected, that's what our parish does. So you go to stnics.com/weddings, it's going to tell you to enter your password. So every time I hand out that password, I report those songs. Because I'm going to go ahead and assume that that couple is going to be listening to those songs. If they want to listen to it a million times, that's on them. But it's the number of people that I've given that password to, the number of people I've given that CD to, right? That's the number of times that you report it. Yes?
What about Dropbox?
Dropbox is fine too. Yeah. I'm all for being green, so whatever way you want to do that is totally fine. Okay? So any question on practice track podcast, etc.?
Yes.
Do you need the podcast to have the practice track?
The question is, do you need the podcast to have the practice track? You do not. They're two totally separate licenses. You do need the podcast. You do need an annual if you have a podcast, I should say.
But you don't need the annual for the practice track?
Correct. Yeah, you can just have a practice track license with us. That's fine. Yes.
Is the cost of the annual license, does that include the podcast, or is that in it, you must add?
Yeah, podcast, the question is the podcast included? And it's not. It's that second column there.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you'd add the two together then?
Yes, add the two together. Yep.
You can just get a practice track and not get the annual?
Yes, you can just get a practice track and not the annual. If that's going to work out better for you folks. If you're just a hymnal parish and you're totally 100% happy with what's in your hymnal and you never want extra music, or if you have a single-use license for Christmas or your outdoor mass or something like that that you don't want to have your hymnals for, absolutely. Just the practice track is fine. Okay? Yes?
So the practice track then is for practice tracks that you create yourself.
That or commercial recordings from a CD that's professionally made that you have made copies of. Okay. It's like making a mixtape, right? It's like making a mixtape for your people. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to show you the inside of the website a little bit.
Ma'am?
Yes. I'm sorry.
I'd like to go back to I don't understand exactly, how do you compute the weekly attendance? If you have a small place and you have maybe 30 people that come to daily mass, and Sunday might be 60, how would you place yourself?
That's a great question. So I would add up those numbers and I would divide by 7. And with those numbers that you just said, 30 and 60, you're likely going to be in the second category, B, 26 to 100 people. But I would take those numbers and I would divide by 7. Also, it's good to mention in this moment, her question was, how do you actually figure out your average weekly attendance? Sometimes your treasurer, when they're thinking about keeping track of tithing and things like that, they'll do an annual count. So that's a good time to communicate that number to us. And again, you can update that with your invoicing every year. But schools, which are not listed on here because it's a whole different pricing structure, schools, we now have categories for them. So that's all based on enrollment. It's not based on average weekly attendance. So if we go to the options and prices page here, we scroll down, you'll see that schools are listed there individually. Now, I've mentioned this to several of you who have come and visited me at the booth. If you want the school and the parish to be together, absolutely fine. If that makes more economic sense for you, we can have you listed as, St. Nicholas, which is where I am, parish and school, right? If that all works together. Or you can have them be separate. So school attendance is broken out separately because more often than not, they're only meeting 36 out of 52 weeks of the year, and maybe even that. Maybe they only have mass once a month, right? So we wanted to make sure that that was a fair way of doing that. Okay, yes?
If you're in a parish that has a school, you need one license for the parish and one for the school.
You can have them together if you want.
How does that work?
So we would just increase the average weekly attendance category.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we would have your billable legal company name listed as school and church, parish and parochial school, whatever it is. Okay.
See the other categories.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So the categories above this are all going to be your annual attendance categories, which are written inside of the brochure, which I can get you a copy of if you don't have one. And then further down the page are going to be your single use and your event licenses and all that jazz. Thank you, I appreciate that. All right. Yes.
So if you have an annual license, do you need to have a practice license?
You do not.
Isn't the annual license for worship aids?
Yes. Yeah, the annual licenses are for the worship aids or the bulletin or the projection screen, however you're getting music to your congregation. The practice track license is when you're wearing your hat as your music director and you're working with your cantor or your choir.
So if you're producing worship aids for both Sunday worship and a school mass, you're saying that you need 2 licenses or you need a combined license?
You can have 2 licenses if you crunch the numbers and that works more economically for you, or you can have them together. And new again since January 1st, she was asking if you can combine church and school, which is the topic that we're on. Since January 1st, with the new technology on the website, you can have multiple users. So if you are the contact of the church and someone else is the contact of the school, you don't need to be communicating with each other what you've used. They can just have their own login for the website. It's a big change since January 1st. You can have multiple users.
Because then if you combine them as a school and a parish and they take off for the summer,
Right.
what do you do?
So that's why you want to take a look at your numbers and see which is going to be the most economical option for you. Yeah. Yes.
How many users can you have? You said multiple users. How many? Is there?
I've seen up to 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at a big parish. I've seen up to 10. Yes. Last question, then we're going to move on to the inside of the website.
If your school mass is
If the school mass is the parish daily mass, yes, so then that's just where your attendance numbers come into play. Yeah, that average weekly attendance number. And when you're looking at average weekly attendances, we have tons of quinceañeras at our organization. We have less weddings. You wouldn't believe it. We have quinceañeras almost every weekend. So we want to make sure that those people that are attending those events are included in our average weekly attendance account. So it's everything that's happening. If your women's group is meeting on Wednesday night, if your small group is meeting on Thursday, right? What's the average weekly attendance for the whole group? Okay? All right. So we just have a little bit of time, so if you folks need to be heading out to other things, I totally understand. I'm just going to show some inside of the website a little bit, and I will reference too that this is our blog. It's news.onelicense.net. So if you folks receive my newsletter every month, this is where the archive of all of those articles is kept. All right. So for example, we have the listing of all the events that we're hosting here today. Word of Life International is like the other part of Australia that we acquired in kind of May-ish or so. So that's why we now have those worldwide rights. So some of these articles on here are going to be really helpful for you. We have a guide to manual submissions. I can't tell you the number of folks that have taken a look at this article. It's really helpful. And sometimes when you ask us questions via email, we send you direct links to these articles for you to check out. So the way that you communicate with us is info@onelicense.net. So that goes to our entire team of license holder support specialists. So if you take a look at the brochure, it is written on the inside page underneath the member publishers. And I just want to mention this because I think it's really important. Before I joined the company, when an email came in, it was responded to, but it was possible that it was responded to multiple times because it was going to multiple people, okay? So we have this new online ticketing system. It's called Zendesk, if any of you use it for your other companies, where we're allowed to have these ticketed kind of responses. So if you've sent a message to us and it says, you know, so-and-so has accepted your request for support and your ticket number, whatever, right? That's just our way of keeping track of how we communicate with people. So if I receive a message and it's directed directly to me, I'm going to answer it. I can also assign it to one of my colleagues, and it's also really helpful for our folks overseas that they can respond with the appropriate jargon and things like that for the folks in those countries, all right? So when you email us at info@onelicense.net, it goes to our online ticketing system, and then we respond, all right? And of course, we have a phone team as well. Email, 9 times out of 10, is going to be answered faster. They tend to be briefer answers. And voicemails, we do appreciate when you leave your license number and things like that, because otherwise we end up playing phone tag. So taking a look at the inside of the website, after we log in, there's a password help video that's there if you need help resetting your password. Once you're in, and forgive my slow internet here, you'll have the ability to report your titles right away. So the report usage tab is right here on the left-hand side. Reporting tracks is where you would report those practice tracks, right? Searching for music can happen here, but it can also happen here. So I'll give you one example, All Are Welcome. I'm not sure there's anyone who doesn't know every word to the song, right? It's a good song to have memorized. Refresh, my apologies. So All Are Welcome, here we are. We can click on View More Versions if we want to take a look at all of the downloads that are available to us. We can also have a listening preview of the title, right? And again, this is only if the member publisher has made that available. So some member publishers are going to have listening clips and some of them aren't. So if you want to pull up this specific edition number, you can click on this preview button here. It's going to bring up an intentionally blurry JPEG image. It's intentionally blurry because we don't want anybody to steal that image, right? It's for you to take a look at it and say, okay, this is the song that I'm referring to, wonderful. Then you can go to it and actually download it as a PDF or as a TIFF or whatever version you're comfortable working with. All right? Yes?
That's fine for like All Are Welcome, but say you're searching for a setting of Psalm 23. Is there any way that you can refine that search?
Absolutely. So you can refine by the psalm number up here by clicking this. My recommendation for you, though, is you don't type in Psalm 23. My recommendation is that you type in Shepherd Me, O God, how again? You're going to find it faster. You're going to find it a lot faster.
So I can put in the one search block both the title and the composer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know,
that's the fastest way to find it, truthfully. It's kind of like a Google search, you know, it's just going to narrow down your results a little bit more. You can also, like we mentioned earlier, you can search by hymnal. So I'm just pulling a number out here. Let's see what 700 brings us. So you'll see that this one's covered. You are strong, you are holy, whole tape. So you can search by hymnal as well. If the publisher, again, has made that information available. Okay. Any questions on the searching, the downloading, the reporting button is right here on the right-hand side. Okay, good. The only other thing I'll mention to you here is that when you take a look at the My Reports tab, on the right-hand side of the page, you'll be able to click on this green Manage button. So you can manage the specific weeks as they appear. The system will let you report 12 weeks in the past and 6 weeks into the future, because after that it turns into kind of like a royalty payment period, right? So if you have titles before April 13th that you need to enter, put them in for any available week. It's going to be better late than never, right? Publishers are used to seeing Lent songs, right, or Easter songs reported later in the year because that's just when you folks have time to do it, okay? So better late than never, all is forgiven, go with it, okay? Sincerely, and some of these folks,
I just did Christmas.
you just did Christmas. David Anderson just did Christmas, round of applause. Just did Christmas.
I was for it.
I was like, report, what do I do with this? I recorded it like 10 times before the program even went out.
That's all right. That's all right. Some folks are working ahead of time. I mean, if you're already planned into September, good for you. You're obviously enjoying your summer, right? So we allow you to report 6 weeks into the future. Did I poke a tender spot for something? So clicking on this green manage button, it's going to allow you, I should have told you now that you're all laughing, David Haas is one of my mentors, and he told me that I should lead with a joke. Do you all have a license to be here? And I wasn't sure how I felt about that. But I gave it to you anyway, and you got a good laugh. So you can take a look at your reports that are right here. So you'll see that for this specific week, I'm feeling very drawn to Marty Haugen today. So you can report that specific song that's there. You can also edit the number of services. We get this question a lot. To edit the default number of services, that's up in the My Account tab on the website, but you can edit each individual title. The reasoning for that is you're probably going to use All Are Welcome for your 3 Saturday and Sunday services, but then you might use Shepherd Me, O God for the funeral that you're having on Wednesday. So you only want that listed once, right? So every time you report something, it's going to have a certain number of points. And the point system is how those royalties are generated. Yes?
Is that the difference between, like, let's say we don't have an annual membership, but we want a single or an event? So would an event be like a weekend or a Holy Week or something that we had?
Holy Week and Easter Triduum is absolutely an event license. Single use is 24 hours. So you could get away with midnight mass and Christmas Day as a single use. Yeah, but anytime that you're getting over 24 hours, a retreat, a convention, NPM, for example, they have an event license for that. Okay? So we just have a couple minutes for questions because we have our second unlicensed event that's going to be happening in here. You're welcome to stick around. It's going to be a little bit different than this one. So I have about 2 minutes for additional questions. Otherwise, I can stick around and help as well. Yes, sir?
Reporting, is there a way to report several weeks at once?
Several weeks at once. So once it's already in your week, you're good to go. But if you wanted to report All Are Welcome multiple times, you can save it as a list, and then you can report that pretty easily.
Yeah, what would really help me is several weeks. For example, we use, say, mass party for several weeks in a row, to just say for these several weeks, that's what we usually done with.
Sure, so here's my recommendation for you. Searching by mass setting, this is the best way to do it, clicking on this in the upper left-hand corner. So say you are using the Belmont Mass that's here. You can check all of these, right? You can go all the way down. When you click on the report button, right here, you're here for April 12th. Submit, continue search. Report again. You're here for April 27th. Submit, continue search.
Still, you have to week by week.
I hear ya. So I'm definitely going to send that feedback over, but that is a faster way to do it than going in every week.
That's how I do now, is to send it to several weeks at once.
I hear ya. That's a good feedback. I appreciate it.
On the downloads, sometimes when I download a TIFF file, and then I try to pull it over into my worship aid, it's telling me that it's not compatible. Only some of them go through fine.
So here's my analogy. His question was sometimes the TIFF files work and sometimes they don't. Imagine we're playing volleyball. I'm one license. I'm going to throw the ball to you over the net. I'm going to put the file up on the website. What happens from there is your own computer operating system. What happens from there is your computer operating system doesn't like the file. Some folks use Google Docs, some folks use Microsoft Word, right? They're all going to act differently. Some you can drag and drop, some you can copy paste, some you have to go to file insert, right? They're all going to act differently. So this is kind of where we say we've provided it to you, and I wish I could have a go-to meeting with every single one of our 29,000 customers, right? Because then I could actually work with you on your specific worship aid, but something like that just isn't going to be feasible.
And then sometimes when you download the TIFF, it's a small portion inside of a larger page.
Sure. And that's up to the member publisher and how they wanted that file to
And
look.
see, then you can't use it because if you bring it over to your worship page, you've got all that white space.
And you can
around.
crop it out. But a
Yeah,
TIFF
you
file
can.
is going to be a little bit more,
You
wider
can't
than
crop
that.
it out.
So you can download a PDF and you can crop it from there. So folks, we have to wrap up so we can get ready for our next session. If you have other questions, come and talk with me. Thank you for your time and energy. I hope you enjoy your weekend. So any, yeah.
I know.
Oh, it's the same. It's going to be.
No, it's really the same rule. But this is what they're going to do. Obviously, this is what they're going to be going over, so just might as well not even stay there. But, it looks like a lot of simple stuff. But there may be other versions of the honors page.
So what are you going to do?
Imagine us as one big Okay, you're welcome. Nice to meet you. Thanks for the suggestion.
Oh, yeah.
That's fine. Stop by anytime. So we're going to do kind of a so it'll kind of be. Hey, how are you?
I am so sorry I didn't catch that last night because I was just teasing about the CD. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I bet
That makes my heart. Yeah. Thank you, Brennan. Nice to meet you.